Hello everyone, this is Mark at GiraffePad again, and today I have the distinct pleasure of spending a bit of time with the absolutely wonderful Kate Young. Kate, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Mark. Thanks very much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I've been very, very much looking forward to our chat, so it's fantastic. So, Kate, we've known each other for probably maybe around about 3 years now, and I realised when I was scheduling this call in that you were my very, very first demo on GiraffePad. There you go, you have the award of the very first demo. Obviously, it took me till about April this year to convince you to use it, so I must not have done a very good job. But at least that's a good accolade. You were my very first demo. But Kate, I'm very conscious that having known you for 3 years and having lovely chats with you every time we get to meet up at Trainer Talk or somewhere else, I'm guilty of never really sitting down and asking you in much depth about what you do. So here's your chance. Tell me about your business. Tell me what it is that you do and the work that you do.
It's not entirely surprising that we haven't had that conversation, Mark. We are part of the Thursday Night Club, and we do tend to get waylaid with other more important matters when we do gather together. And also, what I do is not the sort of conversation that lots of people like to have, because I work in the world of child protection.
Mm.
So I'm a child protection consultant, and I work with senior safeguarding leads, predominantly supporting them with issues where they haven't quite made it into local authority remit. So they're having to deal with really difficult cases, quite complex cases, and I'm there as support for them. So I do that on a consultancy basis, and I also run safeguarding lead training for those who need it on a statutory basis as well. So it's not the sort of subject that you are going to casually find yourself talking about on a Thursday, Friday evening, unless you're from that world. So it is something that, I don't tend to talk about a lot, purely because it can get really quite heavy. And as much as I love doing what I do, I love working with safeguarding leads. I love those little aha moments. So they go, "Is that it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's all you need to worry about." Like, "Oh, okay." So there's that level of reassurance and sort of relief that there isn't this really big issue that they've got to deal with. It's for the wider world, it's not a fluffy subject. It's not a light subject at all, but it's one that I absolutely adore.
But Kate, it's so humbling as well because you're working in something, and I don't want to suggest that people that do the more sort of obvious standalone leadership training or sales training aren't making a difference, but you're making such a big difference in such an important area. It's quite humbling to talk about the kind of work you do.
You're going to make me blush. And I
Well, you've got your new webcam, so it should show up. So.
um, do you know, it's something I've done for so long, and it's something I kind of fell into. I didn't really set out to be a child protection solicitor, which is my background. I didn't set out to do care work necessarily. In fact, I distinctly remember thinking, if this is what you want me to do, Mr. Principal, you need to give me much more support because these are all consuming. And it wasn't until I went to work for a firm that did predominantly divorce and high-end finances that I realised I did not want to be in that world at all. And I much preferred being in the world of helping social workers, helping safeguarding leads, because that's where I can make a difference. I can't, if it gets up to court, there's very little I can do to influence outcomes up there. But certainly earlier on, where I now work, I can make such a difference to just help navigate what can be really difficult circumstances and really emotionally taxing for a lot of people. So yeah, it's not a fluffy subject, but it is something that I find myself really quite passionate about, and I just love it. I love working with safeguarding leads and working in that kind of arena. It makes my heart sing that I feel like I'm doing something quite positive.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you sort of move into running your own business around this and providing that service? Because you mentioned your background as a solicitor. So
Yeah.
where did the business originate from?
So I so when I left the delightful high-end financial divorce world that I really, really didn't like, I went to work for a local authority, and I noticed that there were really silly things happening that shouldn't be happening. And as such, I kind of fell into training social workers. And because I was their senior solicitor, I was the one then responsible for running those training sessions for them. So we'd go off and have a day dealing with how to make sure your report is right. We'd do a day around how to make sure that you're not sending information out that you shouldn't be sending out. We just started with really basic stuff, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. My mum was a teacher. That was her career. She loved it. But she'd warned me and my siblings away from teaching as a profession throughout my entire childhood. Didn't want us anywhere near it. And yet I stepped into that classroom. I stepped into working with these professionals, and I absolutely adored it. So I did that for a year or two. I then was headhunted back to private practice, and I made the move predominantly because at the time I was getting married, and it would mean a move back to where I was living rather than an enormous commute that I was doing. And I could see there was an opportunity for us to do something on a paid for basis rather than when you do it for a local authority, it's part of your role. So you don't get any, you're salaried, so you don't get any extra remuneration for it. But moving into private practice, I thought, actually, we've got a real opportunity here to set up something quite unique. And I spent 3 years trying to persuade them that this was a good thing to do. And 3 years being told, no, we're not doing it, Kate, it's not happening. And so we ended up in a situation where end of October 2013, I was made redundant. There'd been a huge change in legal aid, which basically meant there was very little work about. So I was made redundant. And so February 2014, the company was born. And yeah, I just thought there's a way to do this here. I want to be training people. I want to be working with people. Fell into all the usual pitfalls of this will be dead easy. I'll get all the nice glossy brochures, this, that, and the other, and people will flock to me. No, they don't. No, they don't at all.
It doesn't quite work that way, does it?
No. You are sold this dream by, at the time, the very early internet kind of entrepreneurs, as it was, around this is how easy it can be, and no, it's not. It's really, really not that easy. So that's where it came from. That's how I started my own business.
Fantastic. And so the work that you were doing in those early days and maybe over the last 5 years or so, was that predominantly face-to-face? Would you go into organisations, institutions to work with their people?
Yeah, so I was doing a mix of, I started doing legal work as a locum, so kind of freelance legal work, again for local authorities. And as part of that, I might do some training with their staff, but I'd also then be running face-to-face training as well. And it's taken a long time, as this happens when your focus tends to be split. But I've got a nice solid base of regular clients, predominantly within HE, because they sit in a really unique position as far as safeguarding and welfare goes. And I do some work with local authorities as well now. So it's taken time to evolve, and I'm not sure whether I'd have got there any faster had I walked away from the legal work. I think I'd have been a lot more stressed, if I'm absolutely honest. But I think I hit a point in kind of November last year where I realised actually I needed to take a step back completely from the legal work. I was trying to do both, and it really was not gelling at all. I just wasn't the right person for either of the roles, trying to do both of them together. Yeah. So legal work took a step aside end of November last year, and I've been inside the association ever since.
Fantastic. And so what's the last 6 months been like for you in terms of adapting to all the changes we've faced, obviously, with COVID and lockdown? What's that been like?
Well, I think like everybody else, there was a momentary panic when the diary just emptied. Thankfully, I had made the decision at the turn of the new year that I needed to concentrate on getting more direct clients, and I needed to concentrate on what I was offering online. So in November, I'd picked up an awful lot of associate work, but was doing ridiculous mileage.
Right.
So I was loving the training, loving being in the classroom with people, but I was barely home. I was traveling up and down the country, and pretty much living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
And realised actually
Oh,
this
goodness. Yeah.
I've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous here. This I need to find a happy medium. And so I'd already decided that come end of March, the contract I had was then going to fall under IR35, which meant massive cut on what was already not a brilliantly paid contract. So because of that, I decided now walk away. Let's leave it. But as happens, things go in your diary, and local authorities were requesting, oh, can we have Kate back? Which is really lovely and flatters you enormously that they're requesting you personally. So those days sneak into the diary, and I was looking at it thinking, I'm not sure I'm actually going to get any of my online stuff done here. So thankfully, when lockdown happened, mentally, I was already kind of thinking, I need to take this break to do this. So it was an enforced break. The panic was a financial one because I'd had a couple of days booked in that were going to see me through the next few months. And if they didn't happen, then I was really going to be up the creek without a paddle. Yeah. And thankfully, I remember getting the phone call. Literally, the lockdown happened on the in the evening, and that morning I got a phone call from the university saying, right, we've sent everybody home. And my heart sank. But then he said, we still want the training to run. Can you do anything virtually? At which point I went, yes, I can. I can. And that was a massive test for me. So I ran 4 sessions over 2 days, online. I think they were as nervous as I was about this delivery. Yeah. But it worked, and it worked brilliantly. So when the next, I then had another client ring and say, we're meant to be doing training. Now, I know they've said we don't need to do our refresher training, but actually we would like to do our refresher training. The person we were meant to be using can't offer us anything online. Can you? So can you? I went, yes, actually, yes, I can. So I then ran 3 or 4 sessions for them, which has worked out phenomenally, been really, really good. So it was, the last 6 months could have been horrendous. And don't get me wrong, there have been days where I've gone, what on earth am I doing? What is happening? Particularly when my husband now works for a cruise line, and they all had their contracts cut short. So it was like, okay, big girl pants pulled well and truly up. Let's see what we do. But it's worked. It's worked, I think, is probably the easiest thing to say.
And do you, I mean, because it's worked and because you've delivered it successfully, and obviously I guess the benefit means you haven't had to travel and do all that commuting. Are you seeing this as carrying on as being a permanent part of your offering now? Is it going to be almost a normal way of you delivering?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember thinking when I was kind of driving up across the M62 to the M1, thinking, what am I doing going from the Wirral to Newcastle? This is ridiculous. And I kind of had an idea of what I wanted my life to look like, but couldn't quite see how that would work. And I've now got it. Yeah. And I will go back to the classroom. I will do consultancy face to face, but there'll be a premium on top of that. So for me, I feel I've demonstrated sufficiently that the training I deliver online is as good, if not better, than what they were getting in the classroom for a variety of reasons. But when I get feedback like the best safeguarding training I've had in 20 years, I know I've done something right. I know that there's something in the way that it's happening online. Now, they may have said that face to face, but certainly for them to say that in an online world tells me I'm doing something absolutely right with it. So no, I don't see, I am not in any race to get back face to face at all.
So we won't see you on the motorways from the Wirral to Newcastle anytime soon.
No. It was a great pleasure when I realised a full tank of fuel, which would normally last me a week, had lasted me 4 months. That was
one of the weirdly crazy facts of lockdown, how that's affected all of us. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, listen, so Kate, I mentioned at the beginning you were our first ever demo, and you started using GiraffePad, I guess, properly within your business earlier this year. Tell me a bit about how it works for you. What's the function that GiraffePad plays for you in your business in a way, and the work that you deliver?
So when I first I hadn't realised I was the first demo. That is really quite flattering. I hadn't realised that. I was looking at a way to get learners for open courses to meet prior to coming to sessions. But I work in the world of child protection, which can be quite unique compared to other areas. But I think in this, it perhaps isn't so unique. What I found was my learners literally just wanted to turn up on the day, have the day being taught, and then walk away at the end of the day. And if we can cut our break shorter so we can leave before the traffic happens, so much the better. And in fact, I noticed a direct correlation in feedback. If you were getting them out of the building the closer to 4 o'clock you were, which should never have been the case. But that is just the weird world of adult training, I suspect, particularly from a work-based perspective. So for me, whilst I loved what GiraffePad could offer, it just wasn't going to be something that learners would use, despite my best efforts. But when lockdown happened and I was moving everything online, I then had that moment of, I've got a lot of things I need to send them. So they need their workbooks, they need the handouts, they need, I really could do with some earlier videos, just kind of welcome them in and then doing some pre-learning with them, because actually the time we've got online, it might be a similar number of hours, but actually everything takes so much longer online. So you have to factor that in. So I could do with some stuff that they get beforehand and maybe a space for afterwards. And so GiraffePad just fitted perfectly into that. It was, and then you integrated with Zoom. So it was this literally one-stop shop that they logged into. I could welcome them in, explain what was going to happen for them, and then everything they needed was in there. So it wasn't a case of trying to hunt through emails to find, where's that link that Kate sent? Where's that link for the training today? Or what do I do with this? It was all held centrally. I could see who'd logged in, who hadn't logged in. I could see who'd done the work, who hadn't done the work. And it was there for them. If they hadn't made it beforehand, then because they were only short videos, if they wanted to, they could watch them that morning, or if we were doing a 2-day session, they could watch them later on. Just, it fitted in perfectly with that online learner platform. And it's kind of like, I think as trainers, we have this box of tricks. I'm surrounded by them. You can't see them, thankfully. But it's like you've got your box of pens, you've got your box of Post-it notes, you've got your box of activities that you're going to get people to do. And I see GiraffePad as kind of my virtual box, as it were. It's my trainer kit that it's all in there. And I don't need to think, oh, what have I done with that box? Where have I put it now? Oh, pants, I've left it in the boot of the car. It's all there. Yeah. And I can add or take out things as I need to, which is perfect for the online stuff that I deliver.
Fantastic. So you mentioned you load videos up there. Are they introductory videos from you about the course or about the content? What do you put in there?
Yeah, so there's a mix. I tend to do a welcome video for everybody. Just to let them know this is a bit about what's going to happen and how the day is going to run. I also tend to do a short video there on just saying, look, come and join in, and we can so I'll do a mini session for people.
Yeah.
just to kind of get used to, this is what GiraffePad looks like, this is where you find everything. Although I now don't need to do that because you've got a lovely one that I can I can use. It's much, much better than mine. And then I might upload some, so I do 5-minute masterclasses. So there might be some there that are relevant for learners pre-course, even just as a refresher. Also add links to other free resources that are available. So there are occasionally some free access resources that are relevant to what I'm training in. So I'll put those in as well so that people have got access to them.
Fantastic. So out of all of that stuff, if I was to put you on the spot and say, is there one particular feature, one thing about GiraffePad that is your go-to feature, the thing that makes your life easiest, if you like, what would you highlight?
In honesty, your integration with Zoom, it has made life so much easier that they don't have to hunt in the links that in the resources section of GiraffePad. It is literally, here's the event, click and you're in. That there's no kind of, okay, I can't find this, or oh, where's that gone? And it is all in there. And it's so easy for them to get in, and even the biggest Luddites, once they're in, can find the Zoom link.
It's like a blue button right in front of their face.
Absolutely, and get in. And I don't then have to spend ages like I used to do, sending reminders for venues or sending reminders for, oh, here's the Zoom link for this, that, and the other. So it works brilliantly.
Fantastic. So conversely, if it could do something that it doesn't currently do that would make your life easier, what would you like? What would you like us, in your wish list of feature? What would be the number one feature you'd like us to build in it to make your life better?
Calendar, something that goes straight into their diary that says join now, and they're in. That I think would just be the little icing on the cake.
Definitely. No, that's certainly coming for sure. So the calendar synchronization and the email invites being calendar integrated as well will be on their way for sure. Absolutely. Kate, it is such a pleasure to chat to you and actually properly learn more about what you do and your background and where the business has come from and how it's grown over time and how you've adapted. So I'm really appreciative of your time today. I know how busy you are at the moment. So absolute pleasure. And if anyone wants to find out more about you, obviously we can see in the background the Safeguarding Association is on your website, and obviously on the LinkedIn profile, if they search for that and Kate Young, they'll find more info if they need to, can't they?
Absolutely, that's where you'll find me.
Fantastic. Kate, have a wonderful rest of the day and look forward to seeing you super soon.
Yes, you too. Take care, Mark.
Cheers, Kate. Bye.